Colo with OKRaw.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you. Here's the thing, guys. Like, I'm not the one to really do Zoom interviews because I like to do in-person interviews. And actually, when I had this guest on last time, it was in person 9 years ago in 2015 when I had interviewed her. We'll post a link down below to that video where I interviewed her about how she healed Crohn's disease on a raw vegan diet, and she was so like, yes, raw vegan is the way. I want everybody to eat more fruits and vegetables and all these things. And now we're going to do a Zoom call with her, and this is so important to me because things have changed with her. She had some health challenges that I want you guys to be aware of. That, and for me, it's very important to be fully transparent and share with you guys my opinions and what I've seen. Very important, guys, what I've seen over the last 29 years, me being on and having many friends, acquaintances, and people I've met on a raw vegan diet, because there's so many new people in the raw vegan community that may have been doing it 5, 7, 8 years that, haven't really seen what happens in the long run. So today we're going to have an interview with Annette Davidson, who's clear across the world, and so that she could share her story on her healing with raw foods, but also how it may have been problematic for her with some additional health challenges that came that were, I don't think she expected, but we'll ask her about that. So Annette, thank you for being on my YouTube channel today. So first, would you introduce yourself to everybody and share with everybody, how you got into raw foods and, how it literally helped you heal. Literally, I think you had a 20-year illness of like a Crohn's disease or some bowel stuff going on.
Oh, yes. I'm sitting here. I'm in Sweden, so we're pretty. it's it's far away, but yeah. Actually, I think I was born with this, with a bad gut. I had digestive issues even as an infant. So, and then when I got older, it turned into. I found out that I had Crohn's. I had Crohn's disease, and they made some surgery on me, but I mean, the disease is in the whole body. It's not just the part where they cut out. So it came back, and I still had issues with my digestion. And then I found the book, Self-Healing Colitis and Crohn's, written by Dr. David Klein. And I finally found out why I was sick. I mean, I was eating stuff that my body could not take care of. And I changed my diet according to the book and got so much better. It took a while, but yeah, I I'm stubborn, so I kept doing it, and I got better, and I was great for many years. I changed my diet in 2005. Like, I was eating a lot of fruit to clean out my body and detox and do all those things, and I got better, yes, but I still had issues with eating a lot of greens that could destroy my day, so it was still difficult. And I think we need greens too. Yeah.
Wow. So I don't think I knew that. I knew that you're eating fruits and vegetables. I didn't know that you necessarily had issues back then digesting green. So like for me, it's very important to eat a diverse diet as new science is emerging, and plant-based doctors saying you need to eat 30 different kinds of plant foods a week to feed all your different, gut bacteria and your microbiome. And I think that, having gut issues, I mean, to me is like, hey, there's probably some gut microbiome stuff, which, literally was just, it wasn't discovered when I became raw vegan in 1995, the gut microbiome. So I think that's really new emerging science that a lot of old school raw vegan hygiene books did not take into consideration. So I think, Annette, were you also into the more natural hygiene approach and eating
Yes.
lots of fruit, and that, they say many things in a lot of those books by Sheldon and Tilden and things that may have been good information back then, but now, with new information,
It's
things change. So what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, it's still good information. I mean, that book, The Toxemia Explained by Dr. Tilden, it's a good book. And I thought that well, if I ever get sick, I just have to do a water fast or clean out my body, and then everything will be fine. But it didn't really work that way. I figured out. So yeah, but I still think it's good information. But we also need a lot of nutrients, and we need to get that gut working. That's the most important thing, I think. Actually, yeah, working really
Right.
well.
I agree. Yeah, it's very important for our gut to be working in our digestive system so that we could digest food. And then, of course, our microbiome, because there's two parts of our
Yeah,
digestive system for the most part. Us, we could extract nutrients from certain foods, and then the rest goes to our gut microbiome, which then feeds on the rest and then actually
yeah,
continues to feed us because the gut bacteria makes secondary metabolites like short chain fatty acids, acetate and propionate, butyrate.
yeah,
So Ned, I wanted to ask you, so when I saw you last, it was 2015. You had started raw vegan in 2005. So that was about
yeah,
9, 10 years at that point. And now we're another 9 years on. So now it's been basically
yeah,
19 years since you have been raw vegan. And
yeah.
you've had some major changes in your life. So I want to know, after I saw you last,
Mhm.
were you still raw vegan, and how long did that go for? And how long did you really feel healthy, and what were you eating at that point?
Well, when we met, I was in Hawaii. I was living there, and then I moved back to Sweden in 2018, and I actually started to feel bad. I don't know, 2019, I think I started to feel kind of weird, and I went to the doctor, and they found something on my spleen. They couldn't tell me what it was, but it was something that was not supposed to be there. They made a CT scan, and I didn't want to do anything about it. They wanted to remove the spleen, and I said, no, no, I'm not going to remove it. We will wait and see what happens. So we did that for like 2 years. I went to the doctor 4 times a year or something for a checkup. And then they wanted to do a biopsy of the spleen. And I said, okay, well, let's do that. So they did that. And then everything went high wire. The cancer changed from one form to another and got
So they found out it was cancer. So when did you get the biopsy? What year was that?
that was at the end of 2020. I
Wow. But
think it was,
meanwhile, you're eating a raw vegan diet, so you're supposed to, like, be totally clean and not get cancer, right? On this diet, because it's the God's gift to the earth, and it keeps us
and I
clean so that we don't get diseases, right?
know, and I tried, so many things. I was doing all kinds of juice cleansing, and I water fasted too, and it didn't help. And after the biopsy, the cancer got really aggressive, and I got so bad, so I could not stand on my 2 feet. It was totally impossible. So I ended up in hospital.
Wow. So you were eating raw vegan and you still got some kind of spleen cancer that was they found out something through imaging, through a CT scan back in what, 2019, you said?
Yeah, 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 they did.
Right. And then you didn't want to do anything, and then it just kind of progressed. And then once they kind of upset it and did a, whatever biopsy to see what's
It
going on,
was
then it really got pissed off.
yeah, it was really horrible. They came in with needles, like what you say, syringe,
Right.
or what you
A needle
needle, yeah.
biopsy, yeah, they stuck it in you and
So they stuck it in through my ribs here on the side to get through here, so they could put out. And then I couldn't move for 4 hours because they had to see so there was no bleeding or something. So I had to
wow.
lie on my side for 4 hours. Yeah, it was
So
horrible. But
why did you get the imaging done in the first place to even discover that it was there? Were you having
well,
some pains or something, or?
no, I had some issues, and I thought I had a urine infection. And they did a test, like a urine test, and they couldn't find anything. So they tested everything, all kinds of things that they could imagine, and then they said, well, let's do a CT scan to see if there's something wrong with your kidneys. So they did, and they said nothing wrong with your kidneys, but we found something on your spleen.
Ah.
Yeah. and then they found out that it was some kind of aggressive, some lymphoma, some kind of blood cancer. And
Oh my gosh.
yeah, so
So,
that's
and
what.
then you tried to do raw vegan cleansing, juice fasting. I guess you turned orange at one point from all the carrot juice. You did water fasting. Did
Yeah,
any of that help to reduce the cancer growth, or what happened?
no, it didn't. And yeah, so I first started with the water fast, and that didn't work. And then I tried, because I heard of other people, they said that if you drink like one gallon, is that like 4 liters, a little bit more than 4 liters? No, 1 liter, 1 liter, what you say, 1 quart of.
1 quart is about 1 liter.
Yeah, that's what you were supposed to do, minimum of carrot juice every day.
One
And then,
quart.
yeah, then the cancer should be gone, like that's what a lot of people did, and said that that's what helped me. And they did green juices too, so I was juicing like crazy here. I was drinking it, and then when I came to the hospital, I was totally orange. They thought that I had this hepatitis or something, which I didn't have. But uh, and it did not help. And they told me that, well, without chemo, you will have about 2 months to live, or maybe a little bit more if you're lucky. But yeah, about 2 months. And I said, well, I'm gonna fix this. I know what to do. And I went home, and I went another month passed by, and I did not get better.
What did you try in that month?
Juices,
So
all the
more,
juices.
you kept on the
Yeah.
juices. Like juices are going to work. It's going to help me. It's going to heal me.
I
And
did that, and then I ended up in the hospital again. And then they said that we really need to know, because they were talking about chemo, and I was so scared of chemo because I've heard people dying from chemo, and all. Yeah, it's really bad. So I didn't want to do that, and I continued struggling with my juice. And then they said when I was there that, well, it's now or never. It's now or never, because you are in such a bad shape. And one nurse was sitting in my room crying and said that, Annette, you don't understand how sick you are. I can see it, but you can't see it. And it's really, really bad. And you have to do something, because this is not working. And the doctor came in, and he asked me, he said, like, if your heart will stop at night, do you want us to do something about it, or do you just want to leave you alone? Do you want to die? I was just like, so you have to think about this, because it's now or never. This is it. And okay, then I said, well, let's go for chemo tomorrow. So then they took me downstairs, and they put in a PICC line. They put it in here, a needle, and then they have something that goes almost to your heart. It goes here, and then you get the chemo directly into your heart, almost. Kind of scary. It didn't hurt, but it's when they talk about it, and you're in that room, and they're talking about, well, you can see it on the camera too, where it is in your body. And then I got the first chemo, and I got nauseous. I didn't throw up. Some people do, but I didn't. But the food didn't taste of anything, and I was thinking, my weight was 35 kilos by that point, and I thought that if I can't eat now, I'm gonna die.
so that's very
uh,
underweight, 35 kilos.
yeah, I'm quite tall too, so it's pretty bad. um, but anyway,
Wow, that's 35 kilos is 77 pounds. So you were like really
yeah,
emaciated,
yeah, I
severely
was.
underweight from, was that the cancer, the juice fasting, or the water fasting, or?
I don't know. I mean, all of it. I think the cancer was eating. It took all my food too. It was eating my blood. The blood disappeared all the time, so I had blood transfusions too. A lot of them. I had to go to the hospital. I had to call for an ambulance, and they have to pick me up and take me to the hospital for blood transfusions. Which was kind of scary too, because I was thinking, oh my gosh, who is this person that gave the blood? What have they been eating? Yeah, it kind of weird. for a raw food or raw vegan person to get blood transfusion. But I had to because I was so bad. And then the second chemo I got, I actually they give you cortisone at the same time when you get the chemo. At least for my kind of cancer, I don't know for other kinds of cancer, but for me it was this cortisone. What do you call it? Is
Yeah,
cortisone?
it's
Say
cortisone.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that makes you hungry. So I got so hungry. I was eating a lot of stuff, and they said that, or before when I was, when I couldn't eat, they told me that it's easier if the food is salty, if it's cooked hot, warm food, or something like sugary, like cake or something. That's what they recommended, and they said you can eat anything as long as you're eating anything
You're
with
raw
you.
vegan. You can't eat any of that.
I know, I know. But then I found those roasted cashew nuts salted, and I could eat them without throwing up, So I ate them, and I think they helped me. I think they saved my life, because I started to eat. But at the same time, I was eating my raw food at the same time, because then I could eat again. But when I got that salty thing, it was like it changed everything for me. I don't know what happened, but
Well,
the
do you know your sodium levels? Because I mean, I think some raw vegans, don't even eat any salt, and you could become sodium deficient, and then
it,
that's not good. You don't want to have too much sodium, which is what most Americans have, but you don't want to have too little either. That could even cause some problems.
it was really bad, and my protein levels were really bad too. I mean, everything was too low, almost everything. Um, so yeah, I needed food. And at that point, I mean, I felt the same way. I just have to eat something, even if it's something that I would normally not eat. I have to eat it because I need food. And at that point, yeah, I was sitting in a wheelchair at the hospital, and at home I couldn't walk. I was just lying in bed when I was home. Yeah.
Wow. So you did the second round of chemo, and is that all the chemo that you did?
No, I did 6 rounds of
Wow,
chemo.
6. And
Yeah.
did they get progressively better for you? And did they start to help? When did you start feeling a difference?
I don't know. I mean, it was really hard. Every time I came from the hospital, it was kind of funny because when you get chemo, they give you this brochure where it says that, oh, you can take your car, you can drive here, and you can drive back home because it doesn't affect you in that way. And my God, if there's someone who put me in a car, I mean, I took a kind of a little bus. They picked me up, a taxi bus they had, and drove me home. And every time they had to wake me up, hello, hello, is this not your house? Don't you live here? And I was just like, oh yeah, 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 that's my house. And I was just like totally lost. I fell asleep every time, and I couldn't see. So that's why I'm wearing glasses now after the chemo, because it changed my vision too. Yeah.
Wow. So the chemo had some negative effects. So did they diagnose you? So how long is that? When that was in? What year was that in? When you had all the chemo?
uh, 2000, let me see now, 2021. Yeah.
21. So it's now we're at 2024. So now when did they clear you of like being cancer free or whatever they say cured, or I don't know what they say.
They haven't said that yet, but but it now, the 2nd of September, that's pretty soon. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's when I got my last chemo. So it's 3 years ago. And after 2 years, so that's 1 year now, my doctor said it's probably gone, because those people that have relapses, they usually do that in the first year. So, but they don't say that it's gone or anything. I still have to go there for checkups. We'll
I
probably
see.
do.
Have they done any CT scans or any kind of imaging, like maybe MRI, to see if there's any kind of growth there or anything?
No, they don't want to do that because they think that you shouldn't do that unless you have to. So they don't do that. But they take blood tests, you know. And since my blood was so bad when I had this, when I was sick, they say that they will see it. They will see it in the blood.
Uh,
Uh, and then they will do a CT scan again, but otherwise they won't do it because they think it's not good for me to have more of them.
yeah, I mean, CT scans are quite invasive,
Yeah,
could cause problems in itself. You know, I will say that I did get MRI imaging on my whole body, you know, which is like I had to pay for this out of pocket because it's not covered under medical, but I just wanted to double check to make sure that I have no weird growths anywhere on my body, like that kind of
yeah,
hits you out of the blue. I want to just double check. So, I mean, I encourage people to be proactive with their health. I wouldn't
yeah.
necessarily recommend a whole body CT scan, but I think an MRI is less invasive and,
It is. It.
and can still determine a lot of things.
Oh yeah,
So I felt better doing that. And of course, I did like a barrage of blood tests always to make sure that all my markers are not out of line, so that I don't
yeah.
have anything sneaking up on me like it did with you. But first off, I'm glad you are still alive. And so, would
Thank
you say that the chemotherapy saved you because raw foods
you.
could
Yeah.
not?
No, I would say that yes. Even I mean, it was horrible. I thought about this too. You know, every time I had this chemo, like a week later, I got high fever. I mean, really high. It was like, you know, where you really have to go to the hospital. Um, and every time something different happens. One time I got Bell's palsy, so I was,
Wow.
um, I had to have this window for my eye because I couldn't blink my eye. So they put this thing on, and I have to put some drops in there, and I couldn't move it. Everything was just hanging, you know. And they didn't know if it was going to go back again, but
Wow.
I feel pretty normal again. But then, or some other time, I had pneumonia one time, and different things, you know, happened every time, like a week, 7 to 10 days after.
Wow. So you had to put a poison in your body to kill the
Yeah.
cancer, but it also had other negative side effects. So do you have any lasting effects, negative effects? I mean, the Bell's palsy, you seem to be fine now, but I said you said your vision is
Yeah,
maybe
the
not as good. And then what other negative effects did you have from the
I have
chemotherapy?
some nerve damages on my feet too, mostly in my toes. So after the treatment, I would couldn't even cut my toenails myself because I was so scared. So they had to help me with that because they also told me that if you get any injuries on your feet, or it doesn't heal that good, you know, when you're after chemo. So, but yeah, and I had so much pain after the chemo. I could lie on the couch just screaming because it was like shooting pains in all over. And I think too that I'm more tired in the evenings. It's like my brain just won't function anymore. Now you have to go to bed. But other than that, I'm fine. And I thought that I'm a yoga teacher, and I thought that I can never do yoga again. And I was like, well, what am I going to do with my life? What am I going to do? And now I'm teaching yoga again. I can do it, and maybe not as good as before, but yeah, I can still do my yoga and I can still teach yoga. So I'm really happy about that. Hmm.
So do you think it was worth it? So like you basically have some issues in your feet and maybe some eye vision challenges that you didn't have previously, but now you have your life instead of.
Yeah,
Do you
yeah,
think
yeah.
you would have lost your life if you didn't have the chemo, and you're glad to accept these small things from
Absolutely,
having the
absolutely.
chemo to be alive?
Of course, I mean, I'm happy to be alive. I'm really grateful. And I'm kind of, I don't know, because I've heard so many people, you know, saying if you listen to those cancer survival things that the doctors always tell you that you have like 2 months to live, but it's not true. Well, for me it was true. That's what it was. I think I would have been dead if I waited another month. Yes. Yeah.
And so
So
as a raw vegan, and the hygienic teachings that you got, you learn that we should never put toxins in our body because
yeah,
that's not going to heal us. Whereas, nowadays, what would you think about that belief? And also, too, like in general, raw vegans believe like medical doctors equals bad, right? They literally saved your life. I believe that, we
yeah,
need to think about these things pragmatically. And yes, sometimes doctors are definitely not good when they're giving
yeah,
you pills that you have to live on for the rest of your life that are not going to help your situation. But in, acute situations, which I believe you are in, like if I was in a car accident, don't let me water fast. Take me to the hospital, man. So you're in an acute situation, which,
but
you're alive today because you accepted their,
yeah.
their treatment.
I mean, you have to. I think we need to use both. And what I think is that the doctors, they don't know much about food and nutrition. Sorry about that, but they don't know that. And I think I'm still eating. I love my salads. I love my fruits. I love all those things, and I still eat most of that. But the medicine does it works too. When it works, it really work. It really works, and yeah, it saved my life. Absolutely, I
So
wouldn't have been here today.
So why do you think you got cancer in the first place? You think the raw vegan diet failed you, or what would you say? You maybe didn't do it good enough, or didn't consider too many things, or think you should have ate more variety. I mean, I don't know what your specific diet, was. Did you eat 30 bananas a day and eat one head of romaine every day for 30 for 20 years, or?
No, I didn't, but I think it. I think that it came from my gut. That's what I think, and maybe I mean it could have been something that I was thinking too. I think I mean it's not just the food that you put in your body; it's also everything, your mind and everything is it's. But uh, I think that I had, from what I've heard from Dr. Tim Trader, he said that a lot of people with the same kind of cancer that I had has a lot of issues with E. coli. They have too many, what do you
And
say,
overgrowth.
overgrowth of E. coli in the gut, and that would be that would make sense for me since I had so many issues with my gut. And I think what I have to work on now is to get a better gut biome. That's what I think. And I think that's really really important. And then we also need, I mean, we need all the antioxidants and all the good stuff that are in fruits and berries and vegetables and the greens and everything. We need them, but we also need to find a way to get the intestines and everything to work in a good way and not have overgrowth of anything bad. That's what I think.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with you based on, looking up science about microbiome and getting my personal microbiome check done, which is linked down below to that video where you guys could see my microbiome test. I'll put it out there. I have an overgrowth of Prevotella copri, which could be good or bad. And in my research, it said that, Prevotella copri doesn't like potatoes. And as a raw vegan, for 25 years, I hadn't ever eaten any potatoes because you got to cook them. And I didn't want to cook stuff. So, that's why one of the reasons why I started incorporating some heat processed foods into my diet so I could diversify my diet and eat more foods than just fruits and vegetables that can be eaten raw.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I believe, there's definitely, probiotic beverages that I take that are basically anti-E. coli.
yeah,
Like when they had the cholera epidemic, many years ago, there's a doctor, Boulard, from I think he was from France, and he found that people that were eating lychee skin and tea, right, didn't get the cholera, and everybody else was. And why was that? That's because on the lychee skin there's this probiotic called Saccharomyces Boulardii, named after him, which I have a video about, which is
yeah,
basically anti cholera and other bad bacteria, right? But hey, how many of you guys are making lychee skin tea or even eating your lychee skin, right? I mean, I take probiotic. Actually, last night I make a fermented juice with the
Okay.
Boulardii so that I could have some of these good bacteria going through me so that they could hopefully crowd out and kick butt over the bad guys and get rid of them. Because if you have too many bad bacteria, or even bacteria that could, they're like bacteria that could switch depending on who they're hanging out with. They could be like, neutral
Yeah.
bacteria, but if you got a bad environment, they're going to shift bad, right? And then they could cause health problems. They can be implicated in pneumonia and many other things. So like I'm really, and a lot of raw vegans unfortunately don't consider the microbiome when they eat their diet, because microbiome wasn't really discovered. So that's really where I'm at, and it sounds like you're kind of
They
on the
also,
same page these days.
and they also, said that if you only eat the fruits, and the salads and the stuff, the the bacteria in the gut will get good. It will get, everything will be great, but it didn't really, because I probably had this overgrowth from the beginning, and you have something has to, I don't know what to do, but something has to kill the overgrowth. We're all supposed to have E. coli, bacteria in the gut, but not an overgrowth.
And there's
So
different kinds of E. coli as well.
yeah,
And so, yeah, I mean, they basically, there's keystone bacteria in our gut that we should have, and they have all the ranges kind of figured out based on a healthy person,
yeah,
whatever that is.
yeah. I know.
So I
I
think it's very important to have a diversity of bacteria in our gut, because
Yeah,
basically in our gut, we have an ecosystem of bacteria. And
yeah,
you could have a good gut bacteria ecosystem, like you go to New York City where it's all dirty and stuff. That's not a good ecosystem. There's rats running around. But if you go out to the forest and there's,
yeah,
yeah, there's some rats, but then there's the predator of the rats that eat the rats and all these things, it's going to be a lot better. Once again, diversity in our
yeah,
diet will bring diversity in our gut microbiome. Of course, there are specific things
yeah.
you can do. So, Annette, what is your diet these days? Have you lost faith in the raw vegan diet? How are you eating these days? And
No,
what's going
I
on?
have, I have not lost faith in it, because I still think that the raw food diet is really important. I think we need to eat tons of, fruits and vegetables, uh, especially actually vegetables. I don't eat as much fruit anymore as I did before. I eat more vegetables these days, and for some reason my gut is working better after chemo. I don't know why, but it is. It's really strange. I talked to my doctor about it, and he doesn't understand it either. But that's the way it is. It's working better. So I'm eating much, much, much more food these days, and I also include some steamed vegetables, and I include some lentils. I really love those brown, green, gray lentils. I love them. So I eat them once in a while, and I also eat, the nuts and seeds and things that I did before. And I would not eat a meal without something that is raw, because it feels weird to me. I always want something raw, and usually like at least 50%. That would be the minimum of my plate, would be raw, half of it. That would be the minimum. Yeah. I still think that it's really important to eat those things. And now, since I'm growing a lot of stuff here, I'm eating plenty of greens and, yeah, tomatoes. I'm so happy. I love it. So it would be difficult. I mean, I'm not starting eating junk food. No, no, never.
Wonderful. That's good to hear. Yeah, I know a lot of people that get into raw foods and then it didn't work for them. They just totally go the other direction, like, diet doesn't matter at all. And I think that's just definitely not the answer. I mean, yes, there's so much research and studies on how fruits and vegetables are so beneficial, but I
Yeah,
think what's really maybe not the best is that the overabundance of overabundance or emphasis on fruit and eating too many fruits, and not eating enough vegetables, and also not having enough dietary diversity, not being scared of eating some heat processed foods. While I will say that many people can be healed on a raw vegan diet, because just eating raw vegan is such a good change and a better change from what you were doing, that will
yeah,
feed and and get some good bacteria in you. But I guess the
Yeah.
question I have is that for many people, that for some people that may be good enough, but for some others, you really need to kind of go a bit further and do more and not
Yeah.
restrict yourself and not restrict your varieties as much. So like I'm glad you are heat
Yeah.
processing food these days, steaming, which is and boiling, which is the best ways to cook food, which is how I do it these days. I will say
Yeah.
I eat 10 to 20% of my total calories from heat processed foods these days. Like you, I do steamed vegetables, purple potatoes, purple rice, purple sweet potatoes. I'll do also mushrooms. I find to be very valuable. They're a very high anti-cancer food. You know, I'll cook extra greens so I can get more greens in me, especially because I have a garden, as you can see behind me, full of greens, onions, all different
Yeah.
kinds of foods. And yeah, so
Well,
I'm just enjoying that. And I find that to be, for me personally, healthier to eat extra heat processed veggies than eating more fruit personally. So
yeah.
what would you think about that?
I don't know. I mean, I was, some people I know that they're eating tons of fruit all day and it works, seems to work for them. But for me, it doesn't work. I would rather eat, I mean, I was waiting all day long for my lettuce or my green, my savory meal. That was, I was waiting and waiting and waiting because I wanted it earlier. And now I can have it earlier. I can have fruit for breakfast and then I have something else for lunch, some salad or something. And it also makes it easier socially with other people because it's difficult if you want to have, a huge banana smoothie for lunch because no one serves that anyway. So, anywhere. So I mean, it makes it easier too because I can order a salad somewhere. I can bring some things from home, like if I want an avocado or something, I can bring it. And yeah, makes it so much easier. And I feel better. I feel better when I eat like that.
All right, Annette. So a few more questions for you. So first off, I'd like to ask you, hindsight is always 2020. Do you think you could have done anything differently while you're on your raw vegan diet or earlier in life to try to like prevent the cancer from happening in the first place? Because obviously just eating a raw vegan diet wasn't good enough and you did get cancer and you did have to go to chemotherapy to literally save your life because raw vegan juicing and fasting did not help and you were literally on death's door.
Well, I don't know. That it's really difficult to say, what to do. But I still think that, and that's kind of interesting too, because when I came to the hospital, they have actually started to ask people if you come to hospital and you're sick, they ask you, how is your gut working? When did you go to the bathroom last time? And they never asked that before. And I think it's really important, to get your gut working. And you can't have, it doesn't, nothing works if your gut doesn't work. And I think that's very, very, very important. And how you do that, I mean, I don't know, it's difficult. Of course, you need to get things flowing, and then you can somehow, I think it's a really good thing to do a test for this to see what kind of bacteria you have in your gut and if it's good or bad, and then try to somehow solve it. I'm not an expert in this, not at all, but I think that's important. I think that's what made this happen for me. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why I'm a big advocate because I saw my microbiome test and there's so many studies that correlate microbiome with disease. Right? Of
Yeah.
course, yes, the basics is not being constipated, eating a healthy diet, but even that, what is a healthy diet? For Annette or for me, it may be different based on the bacteria that we have, based on the bacteria we need, based on the bad bacteria we have. We are all different. And to say one size fruit-based diet fits everybody, I
No,
you know, I don't know if I could believe that now. Would you believe that anymore, Annette, either?
I'm not quite sure. I mean, it's so weird. I actually read a book by, oh, what's her name? It's a German scientist. It's a girl. She wrote a really funny book. I read it in Danish. I got it from
Oh
a friend.
yeah, I think, and she's done a lot of microbiome.
Julia something,
Yeah, I think
maybe.
I saw a podcast with her, right?
Yeah, she done and she's quite a funny. The book is really funny to read too, if if you want to read it. It's and she's talking about that your gut biome is set up from the stuff that you're eating. So that's why it's difficult if you start, maybe you start eating algae or something and you've never eaten that before. Your gut will get upset because you don't have the bacteria to break it down, but the gut will, it often,
Adjust.
yeah, so it will change after a while. And so if you're eating a lot of meat, you will have a certain kind of gut biome, and if you're eating a vegan diet, you will have another gut biome. And but still, I mean, it can still be bad, and you have to do something about it and change it. And as I say, I'm not an expert in this at all, but I think it's very important to do something about this.
So I wanted to ask you about this, Annette. So say like, I think some people get so restrictive on a raw vegan diet because when they're eating, like the food they're eating doesn't hurt them. So for example, raw vegan only eats nuts or nuts butter, right? But then they can't even tolerate any fruit or anything else. Or maybe you just eat fruit, you can't tolerate nuts or greens. What are your personal opinions on this?
I think we need a huge variety of food. I mean, I think we need fruits, we need vegetables, we need nuts and seeds if we're gonna do a raw vegan diet, and a huge variety, and tons and tons of greens, because usually when you get into a raw food diet, you're doing it because you have some issues, and usually then you're kind of acidic in your body too, and then you need tons of greens to balance that. If you just eat fruit, no, it would be bad for your teeth and everything, because if you're acidic from the beginning, that's an important thing too, um, to keep your body slightly alkaline, and that's what you do by eating a lot of greens.
So how do you get your greens in you, Annette? I drink a green juice every day. This is a green juice that I drank before this call, actually. And of course, besides just the green juices, I will make sometimes green smoothies, blended
Yeah.
green salads using a vacuum blender, of course. I will also eat greens as a salad. I will also actually heat
Yeah.
process or steam greens so I could get more greens in me. As you can see, my garden behind me, this is all water spinach over on this side, also known as ong choy, which is really my nice mild lettuce for the summer because can't grow lettuce in 110 degrees.
Oh,
Over
yeah,
on
I
this
know.
side, we have some okra, and I have actually the tall plant
Uh-huh.
there is known as Egyptian spinach, which is another amazing green to eat. I mean, I have greens coming out of my garden. So
I
they are
know.
very important to me and make up a big part of my diet. My goal is to eat 2 pounds of greens a day. So how do you
Yeah,
eat the greens and how
you should.
many greens do you think you should eat a day?
I think 2 pounds is what you need if you're eating. Yeah, I think so. 2 pounds, yeah. And yeah, I sometimes I juice it, and sometimes I always put greens in my smoothies. Always. I mean, it could be kale, could be spinach, it could be celery, it could be whatever I have at the moment. But I always put some greens in there, and then I eat huge salads. I mean, huge. I couldn't do that before, but now after chemo I can. So that's kind of crazy, isn't it?
Yes, I think maybe chemo might have. I mean, I don't know, but I mean, I know if you take antibiotics, it wipes out or resets your microbiome because it kills like
Maybe, yeah,
everything. And maybe the chemo killed a lot of the bacteria, so now you have to really repopulate.
yeah.
And now you're eating foods that are now repopulating with the bacteria that likes the
I
foods you're
hope
now able to eat, and you got
that.
rid of your old microbiome, which was used to you eating maybe high
Yeah,
fruit diet and not as many vegetables.
yeah. I'm eating much more vegetables now, and I feel good. It feels I'm craving vegetables. I've always craved vegetables, or salty, the savory stuff. I always crave that, and I think I was torturing myself trying to eat fruit all day until dinner. That's what I tried to do because that's what I've heard was great. And I'm not saying that everybody should do like I do, but for me, it was torture. I was just waiting until I could get my greens and that stuff. Yeah.
Wow, yeah, I encourage you guys to, not just eat fruit all day and then eat greens at night. I encourage you to eat greens whenever you have a calling. Like actually, the first meal I had orange watermelon, and then I had my green juice. But most days, I'll drink my green juice first and then have fruit. And then,
Yeah.
I'll eat some greens out of my garden as I'm working in the garden. And so I don't like only eat fruit and then greens. I'll just like, if I'm hungry and I'm just eating whatever I'm eating, like I don't really I mean, I usually try not to eat fruit late at night because generally we could process our sugars early in the morning, um, you know, based on some of the studies out there. So another interesting point I want to ask you about, Annette, is sodium,
Yeah.
since you kind of just touched on that. So, I know in some raw food camps, salt is bad, but since you did go into the hospital and you probably had a barrage of blood tests, how was your sodium level? Because once again, we want to have sodium not too much, which is what most people have, not too little, which very few people have. We want just enough. So, and of course, if you're all fruitarian and eating lots of fruits have very little sodium as compared to potassium. So bananas have way more potassium. And you could basically mess up your sodium potassium ratios. And that's why I think greens are so important to balance out and get more of the sodium, especially things like celery and charred stems are very rich in the sodium
Yeah.
and other minerals.
Actually, the skin of some melons have a lot of sodium too, but people throw it away.
Uh,
I don't remember what kind of melons, but some kind of melons has a lot of sodium in the rind. What you say there? Yeah.
the peel, yeah. I mean, I agree. I mean, people that eat fruit usually eat the sweet part and then throw away the rest. I mean, there's a lot of nutrients in the seeds of fruits if they are edible,
Yeah.
anti-cancer properties in fruits, essential fats in the seeds specifically, as well as
Yeah.
the peels. I mean, mango peels are anti-cancer, but most people throw away their mango peels. I mean, of course, if they're non-organic and sprayed and all these things, I would not eat them, but
Well, that's true. But yeah, sodium. Yeah. I mean, when I had the chemo, they told me that the food should, to make it easier, it should be either salt or cooked warm food or something really sweet like a cake or something for to not get nauseated by the food. And so I had some salt then, and it just felt so good. And I still have some salt. I mean, not tons of it because I don't think it's good at all. And you can buy different kinds of salt, not the processed, really the salt. I don't eat that, but I buy some better salt, put some on my food, some from here and there, because I feel better. I don't know. I don't know. Some people tell you that the salt will kill you, but I don't know. I don't feel like that anymore. I don't want to be salt free because I think that I need it. And yeah, I can feel that I'm getting a lot of leg cramps at night if I don't eat any salt. And I don't think that's a sign of something that is wrong, that you have those cramps and you have to jump out of bed in the middle of the night because you're cramping up in your legs. It's not a good sign for me.
yeah, I think any deficiency is definitely not good, whether that's sodium, which we could get from our foods if you pay attention and eat enough celery stalks or other foods
Yeah.
with sodium. But I think many people may, not eat enough foods with sodium.
No.
So that case, and then of course, this is for Annette. For me personally, I don't like to add salt on my food. I will actually I have a fit salt from France. It's actually potassium based salt, so it actually has more potassium.
Yeah.
However, I will buy low sodium miso. I get some like, raw 5-year age soy sauce that has some sodium in there. So I'm not going to avoid these things, but I'm not like dousing my food in salt. And once again, I think everybody is different. And some
Yeah.
people are more salt sensitive than others. And of course, you should check your blood sodium levels because I recently just got a blood test. I think the range
And
is like 135 to 160. And I'm like flagged because I'm too low in sodium. So, and if it gets too low, then you could get dizzy and pass out and potentially get cramps and things. So we really need to not be so dogmatic, I think, is another really big point of this episode, is not be so dogmatic. Salt is always bad. Well, it really, it depends. And I mean, whole
Yeah.
fruit diet, you know, may not be the best. Let's not be all dogmatic. So, what are some other
Yeah.
things, Annette, that you think that we should not be like? Oh, doctors are always bad. We should not be dogmatic about this. What are some other things that in raw
But
foods, and especially after what you've learned, that maybe
yeah,
like this some of the dogma out there that you believe to be different now because of your experience?
well, yeah, I'm it is the thing with the doctors, it's kind of difficult, because you have to listen to them, but you also have to think for yourself. And some things that the doctor recommend might not be as good, so you can say, no, I don't want to do that, but I want to do that. You have to choose for yourself, but sometimes we need doctors. I mean, as I say, I wouldn't have been alive if they didn't help me. I was falling apart here, and they put so much, all those blood transfusions and all the meds that I got. I thought at the beginning that I'm going to die from all this pharmaceuticals, but I didn't, and I feel better now, and I actually feel better now than I did before I got sick. Before I got the
Wow.
cancer. I do. Even
Why
if
do you
I
think
do,
that is?
I don't know. Maybe I had that cancer in me for a long time. Just I didn't know it. Some people say that the cancer thing starts growing and it takes like 16 years before you can see it, before the doctors can see it. So it might have been there for a long time. And maybe if I would have eaten, junk food all the time, maybe the cancer would have appeared sooner in my body. I don't know. Everything, I'm just guessing. And I feel like it's really difficult for me to say to someone that this is bad, this food is bad. Yeah, there's some kind of food you can say it's bad, but if people are eating pretty normal food, I don't want to interfere. They can eat whatever they want, and I don't want to. I can't say that it's bad because I've seen some of my friends eating, for me, kind of crappy diets, and still they feel better and better because they change the diet to eating a lot of eggs and a lot of stuff, and they get better. What can I say? I mean, I don't know. I feel like I can't tell anyone what to do anymore. That's what I feel. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. How can I tell anyone what to do after what happened to me?
Mm.
It's difficult. But I still feel eat plenty of fruits and vegetables. Yeah.
All right, great. So another thing I wanted to discuss that we didn't talk about in the interview so far is that, tell me about how the doctors in the hospital, actually we're gonna get a psychiatrist for you because you just want to eat healthy when you're healing. Like tell us that story because that's something
Yeah.
I definitely don't agree with.
They, I wanted to eat fruits and vegetables and some nuts and seeds, and the doctor said, "Oh, you can't eat like that. It's not possible. That's totally ridiculous." And I was, so they sent me to three nutritionists, three different people that I met at the hospital. They sent them over to my bed, and they told me you have to eat this and that, and there was all kinds of weird things they wanted me. Oh, those little packages, with nutritional drinks, probably with a lot of dairy in them and protein and stuff. I think it's a drink that they
Some
have.
kind of Ensure, they call it Ensure in the US anyways. It's like a drink with all the different vitamins and minerals you need.
They wanted to give them to me, and I said, but I'm not doing good, with the protein in the dairy, so I don't want to do that. And then so they sent me to those nutritionists, three of them, and when they couldn't change my way of thinking, then they said that I had some kind of something in my brain that was wrong, so they wanted to send me to a psychiatrist to change my way of eating.
Because you want to eat healthy.
Yeah,
That's
I
crazy.
want to eat their sandwiches with cheese and ham, and that's what and all the yogurt and stuff, so that's then they wanted to send me to a psychiatrist, and I said, no, I'm not going to do that. And I even showed them, you know, on the nutritionist. I showed them on what's it called? The site. It's called where you,
Chronometer?
yes, the where you can put all the stuff in, you know, and I put it in there. See, this is what I've been eating today, and you can see that I got all the stuff that I need. And they was just like, no, 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 no.
Well, they
You
still
need
didn't believe you after seeing it on Chronometer spelled out for you.
No, they didn't believe that site. They thought it was something weird, so they never heard of it. So
Wow.
yeah.
That's entirely insane. So what ended up happening? Did you go to see the psychologist? Were you committed and put into an insane asylum?
I didn't, but then luckily there was a guy at that floor where I was in the hospital. He was a chef. He worked on some kind of ships, so he was wearing, you know, the like a sailor cap on his head, and he made delicious smoothies for me. And he thought it was fun, you know, to do something different. So he did that for me. Yeah.
Oh, so you found a chef that worked in the hospital too, that were not your doctors that would help you out and get you what you needed.
Yeah.
You should
So
send him a
that's what
thank you note, that guy.
I know. I have to get back to the hospital and find him again, and yeah, found out where I can reach him, because that
I mean,
helped a
that
lot.
probably saved. That was another thing that I think saved you because you actually were refeeding instead of their junk, crappy hospital food. And actually, my dad is actually just coming out of the hospital now, and they're just feeding him whatever in the nursing home while he's recovering from his hip surgery, which is terrible. But I mean, that's just what is done, and I think people could heal so much faster if they actually had real healthy food.
And I actually, after the chemo, I've heard from that was also from Dr. Tim Trader, that you need more antioxidants.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I've been bombarding myself, you know, with the different kinds of berries in my smoothies, and I'm growing all kinds of berries outside too. So my freezer is filling up now during the summer, and then I can put them in my smoothies later on. And it's I think that helped a lot too, you know, recovering. And it's really important what we put in our bodies, but also not be too dogmatic about some stuff. We're living here and now, and yeah, and we also, it's also very important to have fun. So I mean, if I go out somewhere with a friend and have a something for lunch that maybe not the best for me, well, we had fun. Yeah.
You have to enjoy your life because that's another very big part of health. Like, oh, I feel so restrictive. I'm not having fun eating raw, but it's supposed to be healthy. Then that's
Yeah.
not healthy because you're not. I mean, I love my fruits and vegetables. I love growing a garden. I love this is just who I am, right?
Me too, but you also need to have fun, you know. And if that includes that you might eat something that you shouldn't eat at home, yeah, that's it. I think it's fine. It's important. All those things are very important, and also like sleeping. Sleep
Yep.
is so important, you know, and some kind of rest during the day, some kind of, could be yoga, meditation, whatever, or just, you know, go for a walk, not talk to anyone, just go for a walk by yourself, and just, all those things are so important. And also to be outdoors, fresh air, sunshine, put your fingers in the ground like you do too, you know. Like, I actually found something, when I started to study permaculture, I just found that that's the same as the body, you know. We need the microbiome in the body, and we need the microbes in the
In
soil.
soil.
Yeah, you know, same shit.
Yeah, yeah, just different microbes. Some actually, there's some studies that I want to go over. I want to make some videos on. There's
Yeah.
actually some like bacteria on fruit that will actually colonize within us and then stay within us,
Oh
which is
yeah.
totally like, I mean, that's just like the microbiome of fruits and vegetables. And then
Yeah.
that benefit of our micro, I mean, all this stuff gets super crazy. Most raw vegans never even look into this stuff and could care less because it's like new science. And then of course some raw vegans don't believe in science or believe in medicine. So, you know,
I didn't either.
you didn't either?
I didn't believe in science. I mean, I was afraid of the chemo and those things. And I mean, you shouldn't have chemo unless you really need it.
Right.
But still, I mean, it helped me.
It
And
saved your life.
yeah,
And of
so
course,
we
but of course, the other thing I do want to mention is that you tried many other things first, and you were literally at death's door before you went for the chemo. So
yeah.
knowing that, do you think you would have did the chemo earlier, or do you think you still would have did what you did to try to heal it before you did the chemo?
Well, from what I know now,
Right.
maybe I should have done it earlier because 1 month earlier because this thing I don't know either because when I complained to my doctor and said that I was struggling because I was so tired after the chemo, he said, well, that's I wouldn't put that on me because you didn't take the chemo when we told
And
you
you were
to do.
already very underweight. You were like 77 pounds, and already your body was already just stressed to the max. Like, come on.
So he said that if you would have taken it earlier, you wouldn't have struggled so much afterwards, and that might be true. I don't know.
Yep, could be true.
So I couldn't clone myself and try, two different. So I yeah, that would have been interesting because then we could have seen the difference.
Yeah.
But then my doctor also told me that when I complained a little bit about the nerve damages in my feet, he said that well, it won't change anything more now because it only changes the first 6 months after chemo. Then it gets better, and then it will stay the same. But I've told him now that he was wrong. He was totally wrong because it is getting better and better. I don't know if that's it could be the yoga, it could be all the antioxidants, and it could be the food, or that I'm just very stubborn. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I would say that our bodies are incredible healing mechanisms. We are designed all to heal. And just because, the doctor hadn't seen people heal in 6 months, most people that come in also are labeled psychotic for wanting to eat fruits and vegetables, don't grow their own food. They eat just the standard diet, which definitely will not help your body heal. So I think you're on the right path, Annette. And I want next time I talk to you, I want to hear that your feet have no more issues because you've done chi machine and getting some blood flow to there. Maybe you've done some hyperbaric oxygen therapy to get some oxygen there. You've had high polyphenol fruits and vegetables and even some nuts and beans to balance out your microbiome so they could send good secondary metabolites to your feed and get those back working for you because it is possible.
And I forgot to tell you too. I have this infrared lamp.
Right.
I used that on my
Increases circulation.
and I used that on my feet because I could feel that it got better. So maybe that helped too. I don't know. But I used it sometimes, especially in the winter time when it was cold. Here I used it to get warm too. So, but it might have changed too. I don't know. It's a
We'll
lot
see
of
what
things
happens.
these days. But I'm just trying to do what I can to get better. That's the only thing.
All right, so you've definitely been through a lot, and so I think I'd like the final question I'd like to ask you is that, for everybody watching, what message would you like to leave them with the most? Like, what has been the most impactful for you that you've learned on this journey of life, eating raw vegan, healing pretty much from your Crohn's for the most part, but still having some digestive issues, and then
Yeah.
now going through this life experience and being raw vegan now for almost 20 years. What would you tell everybody that, especially new people that have maybe a short-sighted view of raw vegan and believe, just a lot of the dogma that's out there?
Well, I think we should not be as dogmatic. Not no. But I mean, still fruits and veggies are very, very important. Very important. But also listen to the doctors and if you hear a doctor tell you that you have only 2 months to live, if you don't do what they say, maybe you should take it seriously. And yeah, it's important. The doctors are really, really good too. Really good. Yeah. Most of them, at least. Those doctors that I met were really good. And they really tried to help me, even though they didn't understand the food issue. So it's important.
Yeah, I think medical care can vary widely, and some doctors are definitely better than others. I mean, you are over there in Europe where healthcare is free, right?
Yeah.
Or well, included in your taxes or however the benefits or whatever you get over there, whereas here in America, it's not, and that, you know, some doctors are really not good. So definitely go to somebody that's the best. I've had raw vegan friends that have had cancer and have lost their lives. And I have
Yeah.
raw vegan friends that have actually gotten over their cancer through natural methods, only to have the cancer come back. So I think that it is very important to be prudent and also continue to learn and grow and not be so stuck in one thing, especially if that one thing is not working for you. You need to kind of change it up and maybe adjust. I think that's very important. And especially, I think that is very important for people not to be so dogmatic in their beliefs and just believe this is always right, but think that, hey, it really depends. I mean, the more studies I look up, the more I realize that there's so much nuance in health and nutrition. And of course, we all are different, have different microbiomes, digest foods differently, and
Yeah.
yeah, it is very important.
It is important, and I'm not saying that anyone should, live on steaks or butter or cream or stuff. It's not at all. I'm not eating any of those things, but we need to be more open-minded with everything, even chemo stuff like that. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say that living on only steaks, I mean, could get some health benefits in the short term because if you give up junk food to eat steaks, I mean,
Yeah.
that's a move in the right direction for better food, but the
Yeah.
studies, the published studies are not good for long-term health outcomes of eating a high animal product diet.
Mhm.
I encourage everybody to eat a plant strong or plant dominant diet, especially rich in vegetables,
Yeah.
leafy greens, fruits, and as well as other plant foods, nuts, seeds, grains. I encourage a diversity of foods, a diversity of ways of processing food. Hey, eat the food, chew it really well, right? I like that. I like juicing my leafy greens and vegetables. I like blending up fruits and vegetables under vacuum. I like freeze drying instead of normal dehydration. And of course, I like the pressure cooking to minimally heat the food so I could eat foods that I wouldn't otherwise be able to eat raw. So, like
Yeah.
mushrooms, sweet potatoes, purple rice. I do
Yeah.
even some heat process other grains or pseudo grains, quinoa, millet, buckwheat. I'll sprout buckwheat also. I believe that eating foods, the same food in different ways. So if you juice kale versus steam it versus eat it raw versus vacuum blend it, each one of those ways that you're using that is going to give you different nutrients in you. So to say that we should only ever just chew it up, you know, I can't agree with that anymore. So I think that we should really focus
It's
on diversity of foods and a diversity of processing the foods because each of the processes will kind of pull out or lose certain nutrients that other
Yeah.
ones won't. So that's my belief these days to kind of sum up what I think.
Yeah, and I also think that, I mean, the fibers in the food are really important for
Yep,
the biome, but also to juice something, then you get a lot more nutrients if that's what you need. I mean, so
exactly. If you're deficient, yeah.
both things are good, and also that eating, in a not stressing while you're eating, and maybe just sit by yourself or take it easy, not if you're eating with a lot of people and you're stressing about it, then it's not good at all. So many things that are, I mean, so many things that are impacting the health and not just the food. So a lot of things to think about. Changing everything, change your whole life, calm down. Yeah.
Yes. Connect with nature, very important. I think a lot of people miss that with our indoor environments these days. Get out to the forest, do forest bathing. Yeah, eat
Grow
and
stuff, grow a garden.
yeah, grow a garden, connect with nature, have higher quality food, more diversity of food. I think also, of course, conscious eating, you discussed that, is very important. Like if I'm eating next to somebody who's like just chewing two chews and swallowing and eating really fast, that like
Yeah.
really upsets my chi. Like I'll prefer not to eat and wait till I could eat on my own. So, they don't influence me trying to eat faster because I'm always usually the last one to finish eating because I eat
Me
so slow. But that I think that's a
too.
good thing, and some of the published studies show that chewing your food up is definitely better.
But it can also be stressful if you're eating with other people and you're eating, you sit still eating, they finish in 10 minutes and you're sitting
Exactly.
half an hour, you're still chewing. You can get stressed about it because you feel like I have to finish now because now they want to go somewhere and waiting for me, and it's like, yeah, that's another issue with food. Yeah. And then I think that it might be better to eat, cooked food. Then you get satiated faster.
Yeah, because
And
it's more concentrated generally.
yeah, so maybe that is better if you're eating with other people, if you get stressed by eating raw food because it takes too long to get it. I don't know. Just thinking. But it could be like that too, because stressing about food is the worst thing we can do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, Annette. So thank you so much for spending time with me today. I'm so glad you made it through your cancer journey and you're able to share it with my viewers and share what you've learned. This is quite valuable. Hopefully, some people watching this will make some adjustments and or changes based on Annette's experience, especially maybe not being so dogmatic and especially when you have a critical medical issue. Hey, sometimes the doctors can help you. They're not always here against you. Of course, I recommend finding a good doctor you can trust. Look up the reviews first. And of course, I think the main thing is we want to both encourage you guys to eat a diversity of foods, including some heat processed foods. Don't stress out about your foods. Eat slowly, connect with nature, grow a garden. I think these are all things that we discussed and that she would agree with. So, Annette, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you very much.
All right. And I hope all you guys out there really enjoyed this episode. And if you did, please be sure to give this video a big thumbs up. More importantly, share this with other people on a raw vegan diet that maybe a little bit too dogmatic. So maybe this might open them up just a little bit to think about more possibilities and to take your guys' diet and health, more importantly, to the next level. Also, be sure to click that subscribe button right down below so you don't miss my new and upcoming episodes. I've coming out every 5 to 7 days. You never know where I'll show up or what you'd be learning on my YouTube channel to enhance your health. Make sure you click the little bells to get notified as my new videos come out. And finally, be sure to check past episodes. My past episodes are wealth of knowledge. Over 800 episodes at this time on this channel dedicated to teach you guys all about eating more fresh fruits and vegetables the best ways possible. And of course, links down below to the original video I did with Annette 9 years ago. So with that, my name is John Kohler with OKRaw.com. We'll see you next time. And until then, remember, keep eating your fresh fruits and vegetables. They're always the best.